Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. I'm Stephen Brown and alongside me is Jason Booker. We're here to chat all things Leeds United. You may have caught earlier on the channel we were chatting with Athletics Nancy Froston, and why not get another Leeds United show in there? It's been a couple of weeks since we played and we'll be back tomorrow, I think, won't we, for a post-match, Jason, if you're around for that one, mate?
Probably not.
Okay,
no.
That's fine.
Unfortunately not. As you can see, we're a bit out of practice as well, apparently.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, early bed, straight after the game, because I've got training Saturday morning early, 6:15, and then I've got a wedding that I've got to dash to. So, yeah, the best that you're going to get out of me, Brownie, this weekend is a Sunday review, but I will commit to a Sunday review
sounds good
at some point. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. If you watch along, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, get involved as well. Are you looking forward to the football being back? Jason, it has been a couple of weeks and these pesky international breaks that are popping up. I think there's another one in November. I think, is that the first time there's going to have been 3 international breaks, or is there always 3?
I can't remember if there were 3 last year. It feels like there's a lot at the beginning of every season. I mean, you come back and get into it for 3 weeks and 2 or 3 weeks, and then you're gone, aren't you? You have that initial burst of games, and then and it's just not necessary. I mean, most of them are friendlies. They've tried sprucing it up with the Nations League or whatever it's called. I'll be honest with you, Brownie, I don't even watch them. even watch it. I'm not interested in the slightest. And as soon as tournament football comes on, World Cup, Euros, I'm all about it. I love supporting England and watching. Yeah. I watch every single game, not just England. Yeah. I will watch every single game that I'm available for. When it's proper international football. I actually don't think there's better football. It's so exciting, tournament football. Yeah, especially when it's in somewhere like South Africa or Brazil, and you get the different, cultures and all the rest of it.
It's fantastic.
But I have got no interest in friendlies in the slightest. So
no, absolutely none. I mean, I said on the Monday night show, there was a bit of commentary I heard, because I had it on in the background. They said something about, England are looking to get promoted or something from the way the Nation Leagues work. Sod off. I've got enough with promotion chasing with Leeds United. I do not need that with England. I think this is the problem. It just gets watered down a bit, doesn't it? So many games. I'm like, no. I mean, after the Euros, I was like, I don't want to see England play football again for 2 years. I'm not bothered, but make the next one the World Cup. You know what I think as well, though, Jason? Do you remember how exciting the qualifiers used to be?
Yeah.
Beckham against Greece and the qualifiers used to really it was exciting and it meant a lot. Now it's just I don't even know. Does the Nations League help you qualify for the World Cup? I mean,
I think if you win it does. Yeah.
No, please.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same when it comes to internationals in general. I just, there used to be something about playing a lot of times for your country. Yeah. And nowadays, half-ass players are clocking up 70, 80, 90 caps for the country, playing friendlies and worthless internationals. It's... You know what I mean? So,
Don't mean anything, does it?
No.
Roll on back to normal football. Gavin, evening, mate. Thanks for your comment, pal. Yeah, so Leeds United in action for the first time in a couple of weeks. Obviously, a bit of a bitter taste was left in our mouths at the end of the Sunderland game. Trying to process that over the last couple of weeks. I mean, it is kind of forgotten about, and I suppose with the international break and the kind of spotlight being off Leeds, it's kind of calmed down a little bit. I mean, obviously for the first few days after it happened, the Meslier incident, it was everybody was losing their minds about it. And it's going to be something that is going to be there in the back of our minds, I think, with this guy in net. Unfortunately, it just is now, especially with the blunder like that. But hopefully no more incidents there. How do you feel about the break? Because I know you mentioned in the group chat you were actually kind of liking the fact that it was a break. Was that to kind of take some time after that Sunderland game then, or what was that? Because I was kind of the opposite. I was like, I want another game kind of as quick as possible, really, to kind of get over it.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think for the mistake in particular for Meslier, I think the best thing was the break. I think if imagine 3 days later he's going into another big fixture, or even the following week, the pressure that had been attached to that would have been huge. And it kind of now feels like it's been parked, and there's a distinct difference between that game and the next game. For me personally, it was just quite nice to not have the stress. Right? There's life's crazy enough as it is, and I know I had a lot onto it, a lot of it onto myself. But we all do, don't we, as fans of this bloody football club? Like, you live game to game sometimes, and when they come in thick and fast, Tuesday, Friday, Monday, Saturday, then it will absorb you. And I mean, for me, I'll watch the game. I'll analyze it in my head all the way through. Then me and you will jump on a review or whatever. Then I'll spend the next 2 days sampling other content and like going up and down like I'm arguing with TV team about their even though I'm not getting involved in the chat or whatever. And then before I know it, the next game's here. And then I'm guessing that day about the game that night. You know what I mean? So yeah, sometimes it's just nice to be able to step back and just be like, right, okay, there's no game for a couple of weeks. I can worry about it when it gets here. And I really, this week, I've not really watched much. I've not thought about United that much. I've tried to kind of stay away from social media and enjoy. I mean, even this, I know we'll get into it, but this transfer merry-go-round that's been going on over the last few days has pissed me off. Like, there's just so much tattletaling and like there's no real concrete kind of information out there. And 1 minute Chekiote is signing that day, and then he's failed a medical. I don't even believe either of them things are true. And it's just like, just get me out of this. Transfer window finished 2 weeks ago. I shouldn't even have been dealing with this. So I was glad of the break, mate, if I'm honest. But I'm looking forward to the game. I'm definitely looking forward to tomorrow's game.
Yeah, no, it's funny, Zach, because I realised kind of probably yesterday, I was like, do you know what? I don't think I've actually thought about Leeds United for like 2 or 3 days or something. I was like, wow, what's going on here? Like you say, it's nice to just have a break. And I definitely wasn't going to get sucked into this like free transfer malarkey because I'm just like, I can't do that. I just cannot be asked getting on that. I mean, just talking about that to kind of wrap it up. I mean, Francis Coquelin now has been kind of linked today. I think he was at Villarreal last, obviously at Arsenal previously. I mean, we think they'll do something there. I mean, probably need to do something there, really, with the Gruev and Ampadu injuries. I mean, these things take a while. I was chatting to Nancy today and she said, there's so many parts to it as well. They've got to check how fit the player is and, everything. And I think the thing about Farker as well is, he wants 100% commitment, doesn't he? He said it before, we're not here to just sign anyone. And also false promises, and the fact that you're probably telling this guy, look, when Ampadu and, Gruev and these guys about you're not going to start, you're not going to play, unless obviously you're unreal and undroppable. But generally speaking, and that's hard, isn't it, to negotiate that? It's not as simple as just, oh, come on, we'll pay you and you rock up kind of thing.
Well, I mean, for these players that we're potentially looking in the ballpark of, it's going to be maybe their last ever contract. They might not get another one at the end of the year. And the scrap heap can be a bit of a lonely place for a footballer. It's extremely difficult when you're out of the mill. For exactly the same reasons that these players are finding. And not only that, but, you become used to a certain standard of living. No matter what kind of wage you're on, you do. So the wages then become a bit of a problem because they're not going to come to the Championship for $5,000 a week, which is what you would pay a backup player that's only going to play when another 4 players are not fit. This is exactly why the people that were saying we should have signed another centre midfielder just in case this happened made no sense whatsoever, because this is the budget that you would apply to these kind of players. So you have to have a situation where this person's happy to come in knowing that no matter really how they play for the next 3 months, they're not going to play come January. Especially given the position that it is and the players that are coming back. He clearly loves Gruev, and Ampadu arguably is our best player. So it's a real tricky one. It's a real fine balance to get right. And then what do you pay him? Some Leeds fans will just say, just give him $40,000 a week. It's Francis Coquelin who played for Arsenal. What, to just sit on the bench? Because he's probably not even going to dislodge Tanaka and Rothwell. He's just going to be sat there to come on for 20 minutes or play if either of them get injured. So it's a real tricky one. And everybody else that is available, well, that would have been available, is going to have been snapped up.
Yeah.
This is the ballpark of the player that you kind of feel in. So I think it's a real fine one, and I can understand why it's tricky. I can understand why it's real tricky. Because then from the player's perspective, Chekiote he's played hundreds of games in the Premier League. He played a decent fist of games for Forest last year. How would he feel if he's been told, look, we want to sign you, but in 2 months' time, probably regardless how you play, you're not going to play unless there's injuries. He's going to be like, well, what are you on about? Like, I'm better than all of them.
Yeah.
But Daniel Farke is extremely loyal. So I find it really difficult to kind of navigate. I'm not sure what the answer is. I think Koyate would be the perfect signing because he can play both positions. And we've obviously got a bit of an issue at centre-back as well. Coquelin, I'm not really a fan of that as a signing, if I'm honest. I think if you have a look at his injury record, he's had some real big long-term injuries over the last 2 or 3 seasons, whereas Koyate, outside of a 1 month absence last season, he's been pretty injury-free all of his career. He's got a real good injury record. So out of the two, he'd be my favourite. I'd probably prefer Kramer, if I'm honest with you, out of all of them. Yeah. World Cup winner. Started a World Cup final, didn't last long because of an injury in that particular game, actually, as it happens. But he knows Daniel Farke. He's played for Daniel Farke before. That would be the one that I think would make most sense. I do think something will happen, but whoever it is, I can only imagine will be playing a bit part role.
Is it still alive, that Kramer one then, or is it kind of? I've not heard it kind of mooted for a while, but it kind of seemed prominent for a couple of days, didn't it? A couple of weeks back, and then it seems to have gone a bit cold.
I think what it is that it seems to ever be evolving. And, I think these conversations are clearly happening. Wages are clearly being discussed. From what we're hearing, there's been several players at Ellen Road training, which I find bizarre. It's not like when we were in League One in pre-season, we had like trialists. Like this just seems
like X Factor or something, isn't it? Right, let's see who's going to win.
It's just so strange to kind of find ourselves in this kind of situation. But that's what I've heard. And then the Koyate deal was on, it was off. Then he failed a medical. I don't believe he failed a medical. There's no way to Koyate after 200 odd games in the Premier League, 3 months off being released by Forest has failed a medical. I just don't believe it. He'd have been ready from pre-season, just like he has been for the last 15 years. And there's no way that he wouldn't have been fit. So I just don't believe that. I think something's probably come up there, whether it be demands on the game time. Because again, what you don't want to do with this kind of player, Browney, is sign them and then they become a problem because they're going to be a massive influence on the dressing room. This is going to be an experienced, international, maybe if you sign Coquelin, who is going to command a certain amount of respect, and that could potentially cause the manager a real headache for what would only be a 2-month contract or a 3-month contract. So you've got to be really careful. Well, I do want us to sign someone. I think it's really important that we do, but you have to. I can understand why they're being cautious with it.
Yeah, because they've really got to understand the project, haven't they? They've got to understand what the aim is this season, their role, and honesty is the best policy, isn't it? Really, from Farke's point of view, because the last thing you want is something coming to bite you in the butt, 6 months later, and all that kind of thing. It has been the international break. We've had a lot of players away. Some doing some incredible miles, Brendan Aronson, Tanaka, and then of course we're playing the Friday night. I mean, it's just staggering. I mean, I'm a little bit frustrated with it because I wish we were playing Sheffield United in a couple of weeks with more availability, less miles in the legs of the players, all that kind of thing. It's just sod's law that we're playing Sheffield United.
We've had a bit of back and forward on the group, haven't we?
We have, yeah. I think some in there thought I was being dead serious about some stuff as well. But yeah, no, it's I don't know. It's frustrating because I just look at this season so far, and I think we've done really, really well considering the things that have worked against us. Because, I mean, Nancy made a great point today that the fact that Somerville and Rutter never had any international breaks, they didn't fly off. They were our best players and they were fit and available and chomping at the bit every time after an international break. We do, now our, Nonso's playing in the under-21s and Joseph and everybody's playing, everybody's out there, spending minutes playing in international games. We didn't really have that aspect last season. I mean, this season, you lose Rutter so early in the season. The injuries that have come out. It really just feels like some things are really going against us. The scheduling, playing Norwich and Sunderland away in that 3-day gap. I mean, it's just bonkers, isn't it, Jason? I just feel like this season we're not even playing the other team. We're playing this kind of, I don't know, this curse or whatever you want to call it, bad luck or or something. It feels like what's going to stop. I really feel like what's going to stop us this season, if anything is going to stop us, it's going to be these kind of series of unfortunate events that occur. It's wild, really. So, to be playing Sheffield United straight back on the Friday night, I don't know. It does my head in. It absolutely does my head in. It really does.
I think it's a combination of things in it. We kind of went over it a little bit in the group earlier. I think some of it comes with the territory of being Leeds United, big fish in a small pond. That's what the Championship is. It's no disrespect. It's true. When you're coming up against the likes of Oxfords and, last season, Rotherham's and, there's a huge gulf in between a Leeds United and a Rotherham or an Oxford or whoever. So you're going to have more eyeballs on you. I understand the need for TV commercial aspects of the game. And, the amount of time I made the point earlier that we were on TV 33 times out of 49 last season. It's staggering. It's more than most of the Premier League. And when that happens, it does then give you a landscape in which the playing fields are not level. They're just not. It's as simple as that. The likes of Sheffield United, Burnley, Luton, whoever else are going to be in and amongst that. They do not have that level of intensity. Now, in the Premier League, this happens too. But the difference in the Premier League is it happens to 6 or 7 teams at the top that are all vying for that top spot. And then the unfair advantage, if you like, is then given to the lower teams. But because the gulf is so big in that league, it's less apparent. Now, Liverpool, the point was made by Gaz earlier, is even wider, the difference in terms of gap between games and all the rest of it. And that isn't fair either. And it should be looked at because it does make a difference. You're talking about, highly strung, perfect prize asset performers working at the very, very, very top 1.111% of a centile of performance. And when you're then giving these differences in rest, and Liverpool's as an example was a great point. It was a full day of rest more that their competition was having over them. So it's not fair, and it does need to be looked at. And Leeds have got that, I think, magnified 10 times over in the Championship because we don't have the squad size to be able to just do a Man City and blow everybody away, And it almost then seems more magnified because they kind of double barrel it. Playing Norwich on TV on Tuesday was bad enough as it is. Playing Sunderland the next game is equally just as bad. And then you move that game a day forward as well. Both away. It makes no sense. And it's kind of like the sporting integrity disappears in the interest of what is financially better for the league. Yeah. Now, I get that there needs to be a bit of that, but not where sporting integrity just completely gets lost. So, yeah, I understand the difficulties of it. Definitely don't think it's a conspiracy. No, but I don't think they think about the sporting integrity. That's what I think. I think it's an ignorance to it.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you said there. I don't think it's conspiracy. I think it's a nice convenience. It's not a bad thing that Leeds still in the Championship for the product because it's like, they get the figures and everything like that. Absolutely agree with that. Richo, evening, mate. Dav, evening, all. So we've had a few players away from the international break. Did you catch Farke's press conference? Because I thought he spoke very well about the whole thing. And it's typical Farke. He kind of has a great way of explaining things and putting a positive spin on things, but also he acknowledges that, this could be an issue. It could be an issue here because we've got so many key players. Looking at Willing Onto on our thumbnail and he's sweating cobs playing for Italy in the under-21s. I'm like, no, not the under-21s, please. I'm getting, nervous about these international breaks because let's be honest, the international break cost us last season with what happened with the Welsh boys and everything. We came back and we struggled after that last international break.
Do you think part of being successful is the fact that you're then going to have international footballers? So I think on one hand, it's just one of the things that comes with the territory. Again, though, then you have to look at the balance and what that then brings to you as the side. And when you're then trying to play on the level playing field, it's extremely difficult to do that, especially when you then throw injuries in and all the rest of it. Some fans will be of the opinion, well, Willing Onto it's earlier on in the season, they've only played like 9-10 games, they should be absolutely fine. to play on Saturday. On Friday night, sorry. He absolutely will be fine to play.
Yeah.
But is he going to be of a maximum capacity, given the fact that he's played an international game on Wednesday or Tuesday, yeah, in comparison to whatever fullback is going to be dealing with the Sheffield United who's had 2 weeks off, who's just been training, that's been in sauna, that's been, getting massaged every day. And it's just not that. That's the point. I'm not saying that Willie Norton shouldn't be fit enough to play the game. He will. He'll probably start on Friday night. But is he going to be on a level playing field fitness-wise to the players of Sheffield United that have not gone away? No, he's not. So that's the difficulty. And it's up to Daniel Farke to deal with that. The silver linings to having time off is that we are going to have players back. It has allowed the likes of Max Verber to catch up on his rehabilitation.
There's ahead of the schedule, isn't it?
Ahead of schedule. Solomon and James are both going to be back. I expect one of them to start. If I'm honest, I think Dan James will probably start, and I think Brendan will probably drop to the bench just because of the sheer hours. I'd love to see either Dan James or Manor Solomon start, and then Brendan come on for 20 minutes and give us an absolute bustful for 20 minutes because he's well capable of doing that. So Dav said there about Sheff had 6 when we had 12. How many of them 6 were actually first 11 players for Sheffield United? I don't know, totally. But I know that out of our 12, I think we lost 7 that were all first team starters. So, and then you combine that with the injuries that are still not available, the likes of Ampadu, James, who didn't go away in international duty, Max Verber, who's a full international as well. It soon adds up if they're all going away usually. So, and then, like I said, and I made this point in the group, the likes of Tanaka, Brendan Aronson and Junior Firpo have done about, I think it was 22,000 miles round trip, the 3 of them, in and around that kind of vicinity. That adds up too. And again, you'll have some that'll say, oh, well, they're on a cushy plane, they'll be comfortable. Yeah, but the jet lag, Brendan Aronson's going to get back. Now, we might not even be back yet. I think he got back for training today, didn't it?
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? It's just bonkers, isn't it? Yeah. Quick shout out for Richo. He retire next month, 66. More time to watch my beloved Everton home and away. Well, congratulations, Richo. Richly deserved, mate. You put your feet up, watch Everton, and plenty of West Yorkshire Football Show content as well, please, mate. But yeah, congratulations there, Richo. So Sheffield United, it is. Chris Wilder said in the press conference, trying to ramp up that pressure. Leeds United have to go up. He's a bit of an old adversary, isn't he, Chris Wilder? And he's always got something to say. Chip on his shoulder. Talks about Leeds a lot. Real pain in the arse, to be completely honest, isn't it? And there's needle, isn't there? There's no doubt about it. But you look at Leeds United, Sheffield United, there is needle there, isn't there? And obviously horrible news about George Baldock and what happened there. I mean, really just tragic. And there's going to be an emotional element to the game, isn't there, with that as well. And it's going to be strange, isn't it, really? And it's going to be a charged evening, really. And you just wonder how the game's going to kind of play out from that, really.
Yeah, I think stuff like that, especially for the Sheffield United players who are going to have high emotions attached to it. Jayden Bogle, him and George Baldock played in the same position. They vied for the same position, and they both ended up leaving in the summer after sharing that position over the last 3 seasons. I can imagine it'll be a difficult day for him. I can imagine it's been a difficult week for him as well. I think for the Sheffield United players, it can work in one of either 2 ways, and it's usually either end of the extreme. It can be a complete distraction, or it can be a massive motivation. Really difficult one, really difficult one when you have that kind of hanging over you. Obviously, from a football perspective, I hope that Leeds win the game. That's all that really matters to me. But I don't wish a suffering on any player or friend of somebody that's passed away so young as well. He's obviously just gone out to kind of change his lifestyle out there. Who were a Greek international. I had no idea about that, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but his grandma were of Greek descent. I thought it was weird that he ended up over there anyway, but he'd already played for Greece before moving to Panathinaikos, which really interesting, just dead random, isn't it? It's one of them random kind of facts. And he'd clearly gone over there to have a bit of a different lifestyle and career. It's just sad, really sad young kiddo that is left and misses, and just thoughts go out to him and his family and the friends, and hopefully, like I say, I would love to see the game played in a really good spirit.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be some sort of recognition from it from Leeds United at the beginning of the game. And then I hope the game is blood and thunder, fantastic advert for the Championship, and obviously we come out on top. That'd be perfect kind of symbolisation for the end of it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all those things considered, I mean, would a draw be acceptable, do you think? I mean, I'm kind of definitely thinking that, to be honest, because I think all these factors, especially with the international players and fitness concerns, I wouldn't be too downhearted with a draw, to be completely honest.
I feel exactly the same as I did going into the Sunderland game. Exactly the same. Yeah. I fully expected that we could lose that game in the run-up to it. We'll go 1-0 down, brand new midfield, and going into that game, injuries, the squad makeup were a problem. We didn't have much of a bench that day, and we ended up finding ourselves in a position where we technically won that game. You know what I mean? For all intents and purposes, don't want to go back into that again. I don't want to even think about it. But, on the scape of it, we did. So if we can turn up and play our game, we're capable of beating Sheffield United. I don't think a draw would be the worst result in the world. I don't even think losing would be the end of the world either. Given the landscape, given the situation, I still think we're good enough to win. I think it'll be a close game. I would argue Sheffield United and Leeds United's 11s are the two best in the division.
Yeah.
Sheffield United's squad, I would say, is way behind ours in its complete kind of, if you're looking at a 20-man squad. But the 11 is strong, really, really strong, full of real quality and a lot of Premier League quality as well. So, interesting one, mate. Real interesting one to see how it goes. I think a lot of it depends on what that midfield has in its legs. Does Tanaka, I've just seen Gavin's comment there, Tanaka and Aaronson can't be ready to start, surely. I'm absolutely certain that Tanaka will start. I am absolutely certain that Tanaka will start. How can he risk anything else? What else does he do, Gav? Like, Tanaka has to play. Tanaka and Rothwell have to play. You can't be relying on Charlie Crew in this game.
No.
You can't no. I mean, if Brendan were fully fit, let's say Brendan had not gone away, I would say you could maybe play Brendan and Rothwell together with Perrault in front. But I won't be happy with it, but I could maybe see it. Yeah. But apart from that, you ain't got an option. Put Pascal in there and play Debayo at centre-back. Like, no. You know what I mean? Like, you're looking really thin. So, no, I think Tanaka will 100% play. I think Hamer will be playing. That's another little kind of thing that's going on in this game as well. He was rested in the last game because he's one booking away from a suspension. And so he Wilder did that with the full intention of making sure he was available for the Leeds United game. It's going to be an interesting one, mate. It's going to be a really good game, though, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be charging it. Friday night game, Ellen Road, under the lights. Dav here, Wilder's presser was well toned down and even complimentary to LUS. Yeah, I mean, fair play, to be honest. I've not listened to the press conference, seen it. I just saw kind of the headline quote, so you might be right.
I cannot stand him, man. I can't stand him. There's only one manager.
It was at a strange kind of time, because I remember, because they went up, the year before we did, and he was getting praised as almost like, a tactical, this clever little tweak he did with the overlapping centre backs, and it was like he was getting all this kind of praise, and I think he started to believe some of his own hype, didn't he? Really, and look, there's no doubt he'd done really well, but it kind of all went south, and he's kind of gone to a few different clubs. It's not worked. He's ended up back at Sheffield United, and they've made steady progress, haven't they, Jason? They've been winning 1-0. They've kept it tight at the back. They're chugging along nicely. They're their only unbeaten team so far in the league. So they've just kind of quietly gone about it. Their recruitment in the summer, like you say, it's made their first 11 pretty strong, and they'll probably be lucky enough to keep that for large spells of the season, knowing Leeds' luck. As Gavin says here, Harmer and O'Hare will be tough. I mean, it's going to be a real tricky one, isn't it? I mean, you're looking at Leeds. I mean, the crazy thing is, I mean, we're only 3 points off the top. I didn't actually realise we were that close. I didn't even actually realise we were that close to the top after, because it feels like we've kind of dropped so many points,
Yeah.
you know.
But we could be out of sight, couldn't we?
We could be out of sight. I mean, I think the actual players warranted it. I think we've played really well, barring probably West Brom, to be fair, this season.
I think if you just add 2 points to the Portsmouth game and 2 points to the Sunderland game, which is more than fair, we'd be top. And that's how easy it should have been. And I don't even think we've been really out of second gear. No. I think his best performance of the season was probably against Sunderland, given the opposition, given being away from home. You know, we've been a bit more fluid at times, but I thought we were excellent against Sunderland, mate. And that were with all the problems, without the bench, you know. So I'm really confident and like kind of, I'm comfortable with where we're at, given the context. Like, there has to be context to the way that this season started. We've lost 1 game against a runner play to a slip. And we've not really looked like conceding most of the time. I thought against Sunderland, we actually looked the most open we have all season, apart from Portsmouth, which isn't a surprise to me because we had Tanaka and Rothwell in the midfield. But what it did do was it opened up a style to our attacking game that grew with an Amper who don't give us. So we actually looked a little bit more fluid going forward, and we were creating different chances that we wouldn't have created. So I quite liked the balance. I think against the teams that we're going to be facing most weeks. So after Sheffield United, we've got a run of fixtures which are really favourable. Watford, Stoke, Millwall, you know, them kind of teams, Bristol City. I think we pick them apart for fun. I think we absolutely destroy them. And, you know, let's just say we get through tomorrow night with a point. We'll find ourselves going into that run of game thinking 3-4 wins on the bounce, and we're comfortably in the top 2. Because everybody in this division is taking points from each other. We've had a really unfavourable run of fixtures, really, at the beginning of the season. And we've had some context attached to a lot of the games. Sunderland, West Brom on the back of the Middlesbrough game, Portsmouth the opening day, you know, and it goes on. The scheduling. You know, Norwich away, you know, we could have easily won that game. That's a dodgy Joe Rodon foul, and then Meslier just doing Meslier things, isn't it? So...
no, absolutely.
I'm comfortable and happy with where we are for this stage of the season.
Yeah, no, me too. After Sheffield United, then up next after that, it's Watford Tuesday, and that's at home as well. So you know that's nice. I mean, Watford. I mean, they've had a bit of an interesting one because didn't they
started really well?
Started really well, didn't they? And then they've just kind of stuttered a little bit. But I mean, this is where you're getting into the thick of it now, isn't it? International break over Saturday, Tuesday, and here we go again, don't we? And this is the time, I guess, now when you look at those fixtures, Jason, that we need to rack up those points and put ourselves in a really good position over the Christmas period. Because I mean, Farker teams tend to kind of have their best time kind of mid-season, don't they? Really, if anything,
January onwards.
December onwards, isn't it? We certainly did last season. So if it's going to get better, and you know, we're only 3. I mean, this time last season we were probably already 10 points away or something.
Oh, we were miles behind.
Ridiculous, wasn't it?
Well, you know, I think Leicester won the first 7, didn't they?
Yeah,
something like that. Like, they were flying. I mean, they barely dropped a point until November, December. I think it was something like that. Come the turn of the year, we were miles behind, and it were only that 10 wins in a row. 9, I think it were 9 wins in a row from January onwards that closed the gap. Now, hopefully, come January, we shouldn't have that. Even if it is a couple of points, or even 4 or 5, if we can hit a similar head of steam and be taking 8 wins from 10, we'll be in a position where Daniel Farker's usual pattern would see us pull away in the new year. And like I said, this season's not the same. You're seeing it with the other teams that are in and around there. They're all dropping points. Burnley are dropping points on the regular. Sheffield United have even dropped points in positions where they would have expected not to drop any. They haven't lost yet, but they have still dropped some points. Luton have got nowhere near. I mean, I thought Luton would be one of the biggest threats, and nowhere near. Sunderland have lost games. They didn't look, on the day that we played them, they were the best the Championship had to offer as per the league table.
Yeah,
we played them off the pitch. We completely controlled that whole game and kept them at arm's length, bar a couple of Joe Bellingham shots from the edge of the box and the goal that they scored. I'm not counting that second half. We were completely dominant, dominant in the way that we wanted to play. So, I'm really, really, really relaxed about the way that the kind of season is shaping up. Injuries happen, they're unfortunate, and they're even more doubly unfortunate that they've happened in the same position. But Tanaka and Rothwell are some understudies. They're both top players. No, not at all. He's still. Tanaka for me is probably still in the top 5 best midfielders in the division. So, what's the problem? The problem is depth, innit? The problem is what you go to if either of them get injured or need a rest. So,
that's where it gets tricky, isn't it? Yeah. As Dav says here, Sheffield have had easier fixtures. Tomorrow is their acid test, and I'm just looking through their fixtures, and I think you're spot on, to be honest. I mean, Derby and, an out of sorts Luton, I do agree with that. And tomorrow, I would just love it if we just, 3-0 or something.
Steady on Kevin Keegan.
I really would, but just to put a marker down and say we are better than you.
No,
you're playing a proper team now, and here we go.
I can't do with Hamface being happy about it. I just I almost want to beat them as much for us taking the 3 points as I do to them not winning. You know what I mean? It's so I can't stand Sheffield. For me, this is our biggest derby. I know the rivalry runs deep with those over the Pennines, the War of the Roses, and all the rest of it. I were 14, 15 when Leeds got relegated from the Premier League. I remember a couple of the derbies. I remember the Harry Kewell header when we won 1-0 at Ellen Road. I remember January the 3rd and all that. I've had my moments against Manchester United as well. But for me, most of my life that I can remember has been back and forward against Sheffield United, whether that be when they beat us in the cup before we got relegated. I remember that well. Then back into the Championship where they were a miles better team than us. They took Matt Kilgallen off us and Rob Hulse, who were two of my favourite players at that time when we were in the Championship. I loved them both. And, they would then got to the Premier League, and while we were in the doldrums, then they came down to the Championship and beat us to the fucking Premier League under Bielsa. And so for me, Sheffield United are my pain. They are my rivals, really. I know Huddersfield feels like that. I see Sheffield United like that, if I'm honest, in my generation. I don't know if you see it the same, but that's how I see it. So, and then the Wilder Bielsa thing, they couldn't have been any more different, could they? No. So can't stand them. These are my big rivals.
I can't disagree with that, because if I look at the fixture list this season, who did I want us to beat the most? It's Sheffield United. Absolutely. They're the ones where you look, you go, oh, yeah, I really want to stick the knife in there and twist it. It'd be lovely to get one over us, because that's the thing in Bielsa's first season. I mean, it felt wrong that they went up and we didn't. That style of football.
It felt like they stole it, didn't it?
Yeah, it's how did they manage to do that? Yeah. And I think Wilder especially enjoyed that.
No, you're right. Even the players that are kind of attached to Wilder, Chris Basham scoring that goal at Ellen Road, and then Billy Sharp wobbling around at 33, 34, scoring goals from just irritated me. And then they have the Jack O'Connell and the other centre back that played together, that played the wide centre backs thing that they did, and Ollie McBurney, and the whole thing just needed setting on fire. And I've been to Bramall Lane a couple of times and never seen us do well. You know what I mean? So they are a pain point for me. I'm not going to hide the fact that I do not like Sheffield United in the slightest.
Now, how has Jamie Shack got on there? Has he got much game time this season?
Comes off the bench.
Is that what he is? He's just a bench warmer and he's coming off.
From what I've seen. Yeah.
God.
He's been injured as well, which is no surprise. He's had time out injured. So
see, I was happy with a draw, but now after all that, I'm like, I want to win. I wanted to win anyway, but I was like, I would have accepted a draw. But Ramazani, he's my man. He hasn't been away. He's going to be the one tonight. He's going to be absolutely on fire. You mentioned before, obviously, Solomon and James coming back. I mean, that's going to be huge, isn't it? Absolutely huge for this one.
Yeah, I mean, even if they both start on the bench, which I don't think they will, but even if they do, to have that level of quality coming off the bench when they're turning to the bench and looking at Rhian Brewster or someone of the likes, it is a massive difference. Them two are huge. They come on against Norwich, and I think we'll win the game.
Yes.
Yeah, but we have to turn to the bench and look at Patrick Bamford for legs or whoever. They give us real viable options to be able to change the game. So I don't agree with Gavin. I think James will start because I think Solomon's coming off a bit of a different injury, and he's got injury history Whereas I think Dan James is well trusted by Daniel Farke. I think it'll be James on the right, Nonto in the 10, and Ramazani on the left. I won't be against Solomon's side. I think Solomon's our best player. I've been open and said this. I think a fully fit Manor Solomon is our best player. He has no right being in the Championship, but his injury record's put him in, and we've already seen that rear its head, haven't we, with his injury already? So yeah, I completely agree that Solomon, if he's fully fit, should start, but I don't think he will. I think it'll be James that starts on the right, Nonto in the 10, Ramazani on the left. I really hope that's what it is, because I think the alternative to that is Mr. Joel Perreault playing in behind Matteo Joseph, and I do not want to say that. Like, we can talk about and have a discussion. We can have a discussion about whether Perreault should start up front. I don't think he should for this one. I think that Joseph is going to be more suitable for dealing with the battle that he's going to have up there. But if you want to start Perreault because he's a killer and we're going to get one moment and he needs to take it, fine. That argument makes sense to me. But you cannot start Joel Perreault in the number 10 in this game. You just cannot. You need somebody who's fluid, quick, moves, pacey. You can't be having Joel Perreault bloody bumbling around.
Ghosting it. Yeah. No, yeah, and this is the point I was just going to bring up, and yeah, you've moved nicely onto it. Joseph versus Perreault, and obviously Perreault, the goals that he scored, and God, please no, don't start him in the number 10. We can't have that, can we, Jason? We just can't have that. Joseph, I mean, he's gone away. Spain under 21s. He's got himself a couple of goals, hat trick, didn't he, as well? I think he got a hat trick, didn't he, as well? Could do with a goal, or couldn't he? I'd love to see it spark off for him. And it's just like we've talked about before, though, isn't it? It's like, doing it under 21s and, doing it first time in the Championship. It's a different ball game. And it must be kind of frustrating for Farke a little bit, because that's kind of all he needs, Joseph, doesn't he, really? If he could just add them goals. But, I mean, I actually think maybe there is an argument for Perreault to actually start, but up front, potentially. I get what you mean. You need someone physical and who can run and do the legwork. But like you say, if it does come down to one or two chances here and there, who are you going to trust?
The big problem, Browney, is that Perreault for me can only start if he's got Brendan Aronson behind him. Because Brendan Aronson will do the legwork that Joe Perreault won't. Now, if Brendan Aronson's not going to play, which I don't think he'll start, but even given the fact that if he does start and gives us 60 minutes, he's not going to be as full of life as he usually is.
No.
Do you then start Perreault, who's a lot less mobile, in front of him, when you could start Matteo Joseph, who's got the legs to press and harry it and run the channels? So I think it's a tough one. I think I'm going to say Brendan won't start, which then for me means that Joseph has to in the 9 and a different 10 has to play there. Gav said about James being out for too long. I'm pretty sure him and Solomon have been out for pretty much the same length of time. And given Manor Solomon's injury history, if you're saying that you're going to be happy starting Solomon in this one, then you have to be happy starting Dan James. I'm assuming that Dan's been available for most of the international break. We don't know that, but I believe that they were both back at the beginning in full team training at the beginning of this week. So they've had a full week. So I think they should be both, good to go. But I'd be more trusting James's fitness over Solomon's. But yeah, that's my take on that one, Brownie. And I think it is as simple as that. Like, I think certain players allow other players to play better. And we have seen a completely different Joel Perreault at 9 when Brendan Aronson's behind him. I thought it was really good against Sunderland, Perreault. I thought it was absolutely fine. He did everything that I would want him to do. It was in the perfect position for the goal. I mean, I'm guessing that you've seen the goal now because I know you didn't watch it live. It was a typical... Beautiful finish, but header back away if it come. And again, he's the only man that you would be able to bet your money on that would score that in this team. Because Matteo Joseph's in that position. I don't think he's in that position, but if he is, you won't back your house on it, would you?
No.
Because he snatches at him at the moment, whereas Perreault just doesn't. It's a killer. So, tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Well, we'll find out what we're tomorrow, Jason. What's going to be? I'm glad it's back in action. I'm going to be nervous tomorrow. I think.
I'll be nervous.
It'll be one of them days. Tomorrow? It's a big one tomorrow night. Guys, if you've been watching along, please do like the video, get your comments in as well. Jason, anything else you want to get onto before we depart?
No, it's good to be back. I think we should go into it with a certain element of confidence. You know, I think tomorrow's game won't be make or break for the season, but I've said that a few times this season. So, and I still think that that's the case. I don't think a season will be defined by Portsmouth, or the season will be defined by Sunderland, or even tomorrow. But together they do add up. So, you know, I understand that, you know, we need to start making some of these fall on our lines, because it kind of feels a little bit like that. This season, we've not really fallen on the right line of maybe a fortunate one. We've kind of always been on the opposite side of Solomon's slip, or the Portsmouth howlers and Aronson miss, and the, you know, Melier situation in the Sunderland game. So it'd be nice if we could maybe even just score a fluky goal and then look out 1-0. Like, I'd be all for it, to be honest. We're due one. We are due one. So yeah, I'm up for it, mate. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to it. I think it'll be a great game. I think it'll be a great game. Just before we do go, I'd be interested to know what you think they will set up like. Because I tend to think that he will come and try and Scott Parker it, in that he'll sit with a defensive, you know, kind of solidity, and then hit us on the counter. But I think the Sheffield United view of it is that they're going to tackle us head on, which I would love. I think that suits us to the ground. So
I think, have we got to be careful of like them trying to kind of, you know, bang the door wide open first 15 minutes and getting plenty of shots? I know someone in the comments messaged about, this would give you Hamface will target Melier first 15. You know, maybe they could be looking for some kind of quick start. And I mean, you'd hope to think we'd have the players and the capabilities to cut them up. And I tend to think it'll be more Burnley. I got a feeling it'll be more like Burnley.
I do.
Sit deep, try and hit us on the counter. And try and play it that way, which, you know, I can understand. I get it, you know. But it's gonna be fascinating to see how it pans out. Actually, we've just got to be switched on from the start.
We do.
We cannot have this thing where we go a goal down and I'm having to chase. Like, please be switched on, because I mean the opening against Sunderland wasn't great, was it? Like the first, was it a bit kind of, were we under the cosh a little bit in the kind of the opening part of the game against Sunderland a little bit, and conceded the goal?
The first 10 minutes, I would say, was pretty even. We had a couple of moments, they had a couple of moments, they then scored the goal around, I think it was between 10 and 15, something like that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say there were much in it, to be honest. No. Given the fact that they were at home and the kind of urgency should have been on them, I wouldn't really. It weren't, you know, like most of the time when you're watching Leeds this season, it feels fairly comfortable. Yeah, I think, and it kind of felt like that. Bellingham got a couple of chances on edge of box, but that side, I weren't too overawed by it, really. No. I think the big battle tomorrow will be their aerial threat, set pieces. Going to be a problem. Keeper Moore's not scored yet, but he's an able Championship striker. He's good in the air. They've got Harry Suter, who's basically Championship Harry Maguire, and he's a bloody lump. Admezovic, I can never pronounce his name, but the other centre-back, I think he's arguably the best centre-back in the league. Very, very good in the air as well. You know, Sousa started the season well in midfield. Hamer's set pieces, very, very good. You know, they have got some quality. They've got some real quality. Ollie Arblaster, which, you know, Lou talks about all the time, doesn't he? Obviously was on loan at Park Avenue. I remember them signing him and watching him in non-league. Like, it's unbelievable, really, that he's now. Is he captaining them? I'm sure I saw him captaining the other week.
Something like that.
They've got some serious, you know, force within that side.
Like Gav says, don't give cheap corners away. Indeed, absolutely. Interesting one, this, actually. I just want to... Farke needs to wind them up for a change. One thing with Farke, you will never, ever get anything from Farke winding up the opponents or any kind of nibbles. He doesn't get into that. I don't know if maybe he's a bit too kind of mild-mannered or whatever. I mean, it's a tricky one because, I mean, you know, obviously you don't need to wind these people up any more than they are when they're facing Leeds United. But
are you talking about the opposition, or are you talking about our players?
So what he would say, I thought I took that as winding up the opposition.
I took it up as winding up our players. Needs to wind them up for a game. Like, I don't know. You might be right. Yeah, Gav's just said us. Like,
fair enough.
I'll be honest with you. I don't agree with you on that, because I think I think Bielsa was exactly the same. Bielsa never got into no mind games with the opposition manager, and he very I mean, I'm sure behind closed doors they're both capable of ripping into the team and sending them out there, charged up. But in terms of a leader, you want to see calm manner, don't you? So I see, before Bielsa, I would have probably agreed with you, mate, if I'm honest. But seeing Bielsa do it the way that he always did for all them years, I just kind of thought, well, no,
the high road.
Yeah, you don't need to kind of apply any sort of tactics to it, really. So
yeah, good point. Oh, by the way, just a quick mention on Bielsa and bit of a situation brewing, isn't there, with Uruguay, and a couple of players coming out. Luis Suarez criticising him. Was it Ugarte or Valverde came out and backed up Suarez as well? Bit of a, I mean, I don't get it. They've had their best results for God knows how long. I mean, surely, method in the madness is the results. I mean, a bit of a wild one, because I thought it was kind of going really, really well.
You know what? I've been doing a lot of thinking about this, and I mean, there's been a bit come out from a couple of Leeds players, haven't they, as well? Not in terms of like slagging Bielsa off, but
I know Bamford and Phillips were on a podcast, weren't they, and everything.
Yeah, it weren't always as rosy as it maybe seemed on the outside. There were a lot of conflict behind the scenes. Now, when you wear silk pajamas every day, it's really hard to go out there and put in the hard yards. They say this in boxing all the time. Once you get to the multi-millionaire stage, to carry on going doing all that road running like Floyd Mayweather did, is a level of mentality that most, and I'm talking, when I say most, I'm saying 99.9% of people can never apply themselves to. I can't even apply it to myself now when I've got loads to fight for in life. It can't be hard for lots of time myself. So, when you've got all that, then you don't want to do it. And it doesn't surprise me that in an era where footballers don't really love playing for their international team like they used to do, it doesn't mean what it used to do. And these players have it so comfortable playing Premier League or La Liga or Bundesliga football week in, week out, that they don't want to do what Bielsa tells them to do, because it's bloody hard. It's bloody hard work. Now, the reason it worked for Leeds United is he had a bunch of riff-raff misfits that he were able to almost like hypnotize into doing exactly what he said to do, and it worked. And that's why we all see him as a genius, because he is a genius. But when you're looking at the likes of Luis Suarez and Valverde, who plays for Real Madrid, and Suarez, who's had the career that he's had, he don't want to do that. He don't want to have to work like Luke Ayling did, or Matthias Klick, or Liam Cooper. They just don't. So that's why Bielsa's so special, because it doesn't apply to these superstars.
No, well, they seem to have a problem. Well, they seem to have a problem with his like interpersonal skills as well, don't they? Or not saying hello and all this kind of thing. But he is that kind of way, isn't he? He is, it's almost. I mean, do you remember when we won the championship and then suddenly he was like celebrating and he was doing a speech? He was like, you saw him smiling for the first time,
hugging,
and it was incredible. And it was like, that was one of the best things to see, because you're like, he doesn't let himself ever do that. The winner game of football, and it's a nod, shake hands with the manager, and it's straight down and probably analysing the game. Whereas it was great to see him kind of open up. And for him, it's not going to be job done. The fact that they got to the final of the Copa America,
I cried when he hugged Calvin that night. That moment, I was sobbing my heart, and that moment when he hugs Bamford on the training pitch, when he sticks that goal in, the real moments of genuine personability, rather than just false bullshit, playing a hairy fairy footballer that just wants to be made to feel good. He's one for the ages. There won't be another Bielsa ever, and there'll be very few managers that come through like Marcelo ever again. I think Bobby Robson's probably of a similar kind of ilk and nature. I think his man management skills will have probably been a little bit better than a Bielsa in the times that they were different. But that school of manager is long gone, where the distance is kept and they can just deal on the detail on the pitch. They all have to be.
They all want to be managed by Carlo Ancelotti, don't they? Who's just like basically.
Do what you want.
Do what you want.
Hanging out with a cigar and come on.
That's it. That's what the top players want, don't they? Good stuff. Excellent. Well, myself and Jason will be back at some point over the weekend to break down the Leeds United versus Sheffield United game. If you've not already, please do like the video, get subscribing to the channel as well to get all our takes on Leeds United. We'll be back on the Monday show as well. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, Jason. Thank you for joining me. And
thank you, mate.
We will see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.